students, but also people from the community. So it's not uncommon for us to get people to come in. All right, run. To get people to come in that have PTSD or anxiety. I know that I have had a couple veterans that I've worked with that have had some anxiety issues and PTSD things. So one of the things that we sometimes like to encourage is if they can have, as part of their coping skills, sometimes a service dog is something that really helps them a lot. So I'm going to turn over to Glenn. Glenn is the coordinator for the Military Veterans Peer Network here in Abilene, which is a program under Betty Hardwick. It's a Texas state program, which is fantastic. Not many places have programs like what he does. And so he works with a lot of veterans dealing with their issues, helping them find resources and things, and a lot of peer networking, group therapy type stuff that's peer sponsored. And he offers a lot of trainings. He does a lot of training in the community for people who want to better understand military environment, things like that, and PTSD and TBIs and other related things. So I will not let you begin, Jethro.
My name's Glenn McGraw. I'd like to take over the pup. Hey, good boy, Jeff. Hey, good boy. Come here. Good boy. You did good. Lay down. Lay down. My name's Glenn McGraw. I'm a 14-and-a-half-year Air Force veteran, security forces. How many of y'all have family in the military? Wow, that's less than I thought in here. Well, thank y'all. I don't know if you know, it's the month of the military child, and I thank you for the sacrifices you guys made. Is you've grown up with family gone away and coming home. Maybe they act a little different when they come back. Family dynamic changes every time they come and go. Am I close? So I appreciate what y'all did and what y'all continue to do. Thank you, Jethro. So that being said, I have 7 deployments in 14 and a half years. A full-length, can you grab her?
Yes,
one full-length tour to Iraq, combat tour. I've also done a couple of different deployments where I've gone in and out of different countries: Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, Iran, Pakistan, a bunch of the countries that I can't pronounce their whole name, but they end with Stan. I've been around that part of the world, but I also had some fun. I got to see Kenya and Ethiopia and Eritrea. Somalia wasn't as fun, but it's in the same part of the world.
That's not
So,
fun. I got to go to Australia and Greece and Singapore.
So I've got to be some interesting places and see some different things. But I got out on a medical separation because I had a traumatic brain injury. Fast forward 5 years. It took me 5 years for my PTSD, depression. Getting out, depression set on early, but I faked it. Oh, I faked it like a champion. My wife didn't know I had depression. I mastered hiding it. But then about 5 years in, I started to notice the signs and symptoms of PTSD. And as a veteran, you typically hide that stuff. You don't want to come out with it. You don't want to be public with it. It's a sign of weakness. In a military unit, we're built on teamwork. Have you all seen the movies where they pick the bag up, drop it, pick it up, drop it at basic training? That exercise isn't just to annoy you. It's actually your first exercise of acting as a unit, acting as one team, not as a bunch of individuals. So there's a purpose to that. And all of the training we do talks about being part of the team. And you're only as strong as the weakest link, right? So what happens when you become the weakest link? Do you want to announce that and publicly engage your unit and say, hey, I can't do my job? You really don't. Now, can you imagine if you have a whole unit that people are dealing with PTSD, if they can function well, it's in the best interest of that unit not to say anything, because it's still functioning. Instead of getting people help, hey, we still work, we're still part of the big picture, let's keep it. Whereas once it becomes ineffective is when people come in and tend to help. We bring that mentality to the civilian world when we get out. So around the 5-year mark, I was doing this job already on a limited basis. I noticed I had horrible anxiety to the level where it felt like a heart attack. Have you ever heard of that? I started doing, okay, I looked up, what do? We don't call a doctor, we don't call anyone, we go to WebMD or Google. I have these symptoms, what do I have, my head's gonna blow up, or I have anxiety, or I'm having a stroke, So I'm like, oh my gosh, it's either a heart attack, or, I'm having an anxiety attack. And it got real bad. At that point, I started having nightmares again. So I decided to get him. But here's where I'm gonna kind of diverge from my story and go into the professional side of this. There's 3 big treatments for post-traumatic stress disorder. Do any of y'all know what they are yet? Have y'all covered that? No? Okay. Exposure therapy is one of them. You have, and I made notes because I mess up these. You shorten them up. I use the shortened version all the time, but I don't use the prolonged exposure, cognitive processing, or CPT therapy, and then eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR. Okay, those are the 3 main treatments. Part of my job is every year at our conference, I get a little bit of update on what's the current, what's the best, what is going on, what the trends are in the state. So for example, EMDR, it's typically a 60 to 90 minute session. I just happened to learn this at my conference, and the week I get back, someone came into my office who's getting it in 30-minute sessions, and they're like, man, I'm getting worse, not better. And I was able to go, Now, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a counselor, but I know what the standards are, so I can go, hang on, we might have a problem here. Have you talked to your therapist about doing 60 to 90 minute treatments? And they went back and talked to their therapist, and the therapist said, no, 30 minutes is good. And we had a conversation about maybe it's time to look for a therapist who will do it in 60 to 90 minute sessions and see how that works for you. What do you think? And they're like, yeah, you know what, that's a good idea, because this is making me worse. They found that new therapist in town, and guess what? They're doing 60 to 90 minute sessions. They're making superior progress because it's in the boundaries of what the standard is. So we learn those things. I went and finally got some counseling at one of the peers I was working with. He looked at me one day, and a peer work is a 2-way street. And he looked at me and goes, are you sure it's a 2-way street? I go, yes. He goes, well, I think you need counseling. You seem stuck. You've seemed stuck for about a month, and I was waiting for you to kind of snap out of it. And I go, okay. I turned around and made a phone call to the vet center and scheduled an appointment for counseling. He goes, that easy? I go, hey, you've trusted me when I make something. I gotta trust you. It's a 2-way street here. And so I've been in and out of counseling ever since. I went in and dealt with my anxiety first. That was my big obstacle. I dealt with that first. Left counseling because I dealt with the issue I went to deal with. Applied a lot of the tools to my PTSD and depression, but then I got stuck. So what I do, made a phone call, went back to counseling for a little bit. Why? Because, okay, I've exhausted my tools. Let's go back and see. I call it a tune-up. I go in for a tune-up. Okay, here's what I'm trying to deal with, and it's not working. So we'll address another issue. Left, I'm back for my 3rd try. And again, it's not that counseling didn't work. It's that I've used all my tools, and I'm ready to conquer a new issue in life. And I tried with the tools I have. Okay, I've ran out of experience, so I go get some more tools. So part of my job is being open with my story, because other veterans are in that mode where I've told you, we come out, they're like, well, I can't go talk to people. I can't tell people I have this, I can't tell them this. So my job is to help share my story so people can go, wow, you did it? And there's a person I work with in another organization. She's helped because she's like, I knew him before and after, and there's a night and day difference. But I also set a realistic expectation for him of counseling isn't easy. It's not like you go in one day and you come out and it's all rainbows, unicorns, and butterflies the next. It's work, it's hard work. You have to deal with the tough stuff that's happened to you. So that's something, I set a realistic expectation so they understand when they go in there. This isn't easy, but you have a peer here that can assist you who's been through it, and you go get the professional help and you need just someone to talk to about the application. You're like, I've been trying to apply this, or I think my family needs it. How do I get my family there? Or sometimes I call myself a rent-a-friend. They just show up and we talk for an hour and it's about sports and it's about weather and, you know, they may be there for an hour and a half. I'm like, did we miss anything you want to talk about there? No, I just need to sit down and have a normal conversation with someone. Great, I'm glad we accomplished it. I always make sure before they leave, there isn't a big issue sitting there that they've been afraid to open up, because sometimes they just need to have a real conversation with someone that gets them. Talking about, I think you want me to talk about the dogs. There's 3 types of service animals out there. There's an actual service dog. He's trained to alert to my anxiety. He does that by noticing the chemistry change that happens in your brain. Have y'all learned about that yet? He can smell the, okay, for those of y'all have, and I'm not a science major, so basically one part of your brain, there's 3 pieces of your brain, and in a normal mind, they all get the message at the same time, they all respond at the same time, you have a normal reaction. For someone who's been traumatized, your fight, or flight spot, I remember right, it's a hippocampus, am I close? Wonderful, I remembered something today. It fires and floods your system with the chemistry to activate your fight, flight, or freeze. The problem is, instead of the other 2 pieces of your brain getting the message at the same time and all of them making a decision together, your hippocampus is flooding you and everything else has like a constricted flow. And so by the time the rest of your body gets the message, it's already gone into that fight, flight, or freeze, and the rest of your body is catching up. And then by the time that message hits it, hang on, never mind, your body is already in that, and you can get stuck there. He will smell the chemistry change on me before I can even feel it most of the time. And he'll get up and he'll bump me if we're walking, he'll start bumping me with his head. If we're sitting at the restaurant, let's say in a restaurant, he will actually sit up under the table, put his head on my lap, and start rubbing his head on my leg. My job then is to engage him, employ my breathing exercises, focus on him instead of my surroundings. I've gotten good with it where when I'm in the classroom and he alerts to me, I can sit there and just reach down and pet him and still go on with my teaching, and just the active engagement with him allows me to keep focused enough that I may still be having an anxiety attack, but I can keep moving with it. So he has been phenomenal. So a service dog has to be trained to do tasks. So his job is to alert to my anxiety, and his secondary job is to help ground me. Things he has taught himself on his own. When I have a nightmare, he will actually come up and lick my face to bring me just out of my nightmare, and then he'll press his body against me for the rest of the night to provide safety and a safety blanket. He's taught himself that on his own. I don't know how he learned it, but I am so thankful because I have shorter nightmares now and they're not as traumatic. The other thing he's taught himself to do is, and you know, sometimes you get bored in life. When I get depressed, I tend to sit around, sit on the couch, stare at the TV, not want to go anywhere. He's a lab. He wants activity. He wants action. He wants to do things. But I actually got so bored during one of my depressive bouts, I'm like, man, this dog goes to the bathroom twice as much. What's wrong? And I started timing him. No kidding, he goes to the bathroom twice as much when I'm depressed. He's doing it to get me up, get me moving, keep me doing something. He will bring his ball to me more often, to play more frequently than normal. I am taking it, he has figured out something is off, something in my chemistry is off, because he monitors that by smell. And he is engaging me to keep me moving and keep me going to help me get to be normal again. So another kind is emotional support dogs, or ESAs. They have limited protection on where they can go. He can go anywhere, except, believe it or not, federal buildings can tell me they can't. The American Disabilities Act does not apply to federal buildings. I have only been turned down to one. So I can go anywhere else. ESAs, they have some housing protections, but they can't go anywhere with you. They're untrained, and their job's more provide you comfort and support. And then therapy dogs. Therapy dogs are completely different. Service dogs don't have a certification process. ESAs don't. Therapy dogs actually have a certification process, and those are the dogs you'll see in hospitals, or nursing homes, or schools to make kids feel better. They'll go in. Service dogs, you shouldn't interact with. Don't look at them, don't talk to them, don't pet them. The flip side is therapy dogs. Their thing is pet these dogs, let them lick on you, be engaged with them, because their job is to be comfortable. That being said, the VA released a paper, about a 3-page paper, about 2 months ago. I looked for it, I was gonna make copies for y'all, but I couldn't, I think I've given it out. They did some research on therapy dogs in the room with a veteran has PTSD as they're going through CPT or CBT. And they have made a conclusion, with more research they're gonna do. But as of now, they don't recommend that. The reason is to help you feel again and help you express your emotions and everything. I'll tell you what, I don't take him to counseling because he'll alert to the anxiety, and I can calm myself by working with him instead of working through my issue. So when I go to counseling, I leave him at home. I trust my counselor, I trust the process. I'm gonna go in there and feel whatever discomfort I'm gonna feel and learn to deal with it. So bringing him with me is counterproductive. So if you're gonna be a therapist and you're like, oh, I wanna have a therapy dog in my office, with kids, it's a great thing. Distracts them, lets them talk. But with adults, or at least with veterans, as of now the VA is saying that's not a wise path. And I understand, at first I'm like, well, that stinks, because everyone wants a dog around. Well, most of us do. But once I realized, when I read the whole paper, and I'm like, man, I should have caught that. I know enough about this that should have clicked. So that's a part of it. And I think that's the main highlights to cover what we're looking for.